Good morning, students. Today we'll be taking up the first lesson of your book Hornbill, named The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. Khushwant Singh was born on February 2nd, 1915, and he died on March 28th, 2014. In this long life, he had a very recognizable career. He was a member of Rajya Sabha, right? He is a renowned politician. He practiced law in Lahore before partition. He was IFS. He worked for All India Radio, and he was editor in different magazines and newspapers, right? He was awarded Padma Bhushan in 1974, but he returned it in 1984 to register his protest against Operation Blue Star at Golden Temple. Operation Blue Star was when the terrorists entered the Golden Temple to take shelter. They were killed by the army people who had entered the Golden Temple wearing the shoes and everything. So there was bloodshed in Golden Temple. So the Sikhs were not accepting it, and to protest against this, he had registered his protest by refusing or returning the Padma Bhushan award that he had received. In the year 2007, he was awarded Padma Vibhushan. Right? He has written many novels, many books, and one of the famous books written by him was Train to Pakistan. Right? And a column that he wrote for the newspaper with malice towards one and all. It was a very famous column. He was known for his blunt writings, right? And he was also appreciated by many people because of his writings. Now, this particular story that you are going to study, The Portrait of a Lady. Portrait, what is a portrait? Right? It is the painting of a person, that is portrait. Right? Here, portrait is something different. It's not a painting, but it is a pen portrait. Right? Pen portrait means what you write about that person. That is pen portrait. The words. Pen here refers to the words. It's the pen portrait of a lady. Now, whenever you listen to The Portrait of a Lady, what comes to your mind is a beautiful lady, right? A beautiful lady, her picture. But here it is different, totally different. Here the portrait is that of his grandmother, okay? His grandmother who used to live with him. His parents had moved to city, and in the village, Khushwant Singh and his grandmother used to live. They had gone there and they had not yet settled. So, grandmother and grandson used to live together. Now, he tells you about his grandmother. She was an old woman. As usual, grandmothers are old people, right? She had been wrinkled for 20 years that he had known her, right? Now he says that for 20 years that I have seen my grandmother, she is old and wrinkled. She has not changed even a little bit, right? Now people say that once she used to be young and pretty and even had a husband, but he says it is very difficult to believe, because she is very old. How could she be young? Right? Now, this is the thinking of Khushwant Singh as a child. Okay, he thinks, how can my grandmother be young and how could she have a husband? Because he had always seen his grandmother and not his grandfather. Right? Now he says that there is a portrait of his grandfather which is hung on the mantelpiece in the drawing room, and as a Sikh, as a Sardar, he used to wear a big turban over his head, the pagdi, right? And the loose fitting clothes. His white beard flowed, right? He was having a big white beard which covered his chest, and it seemed that he was almost 100 years old, right? He could not be young even in the past, right? And he was grandfather, so grandmother was his wife, his father was his children, right? He thinks that this old man, how can he have a family? He did not look like. So this was the thoughts of Khushwant Singh as a child. And whenever his grandmother used to say anything about her childhood, how she used to play, how she used to live, and stories of her childhood, he thought that it is very, very undignified, because the old people should not play. For him, grandmother had been old, so she could never have been young child. She could not have been a baby. So for him to think of his grandfather and grandmother to be young was beyond his expectations, right? And that is why he always thought that his grandfather and his grandmother could have only grandchildren. They could not have a husband or a wife or children. They could only have lots and lots of grandchildren, right? This is the childish thought of Khushwant Singh. Now he tells about his grandmother, how she looked. He has already told that she was old and wrinkled. Now she was a bit fat and short and slightly bent, right? You must have seen old people who are bent, right? They don't have straight backbone. They are a little bent. Okay, so she was also a little bent, and her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. That means her face was filled with wrinkles. Okay, and she was so old that she could not grow any older, right? That means she was old as she used to be. Now here he says she could never have been pretty but was always beautiful. Now there is difference between pretty and beautiful, right? He says she could not be pretty. You can say a baby is very pretty, a girl is very pretty, right? But when you talk of the nature, you don't say this is very pretty scenery. You always say that it's a beautiful scenery. So there is difference between pretty and beautiful. Pretty is what pleases your eyes, but beautiful is what pleases your heart, right? So he says she is not pretty, but she is beautiful. She was beautiful and she is beautiful, right? So in the eyes of Khushwant Singh, her grandmother was very, very beautiful. Now she hobbled about the house. Hobbled means moved about, right? With shoulders a bit bent forward, right? And she used to move in the house with the spotless white dress, right? And one hand resting on her waist to balance her stoop, right? She used to put one hand on her waist. You must have seen the old people walking, and as they are bent, they cannot keep a balance, right? The center of gravity is differed, right? It has changed its place. So to maintain the balance, the old people generally put their hands on their waist and try to balance, right? Try to balance themselves, right? And her hair, it was the silver locks. That means the hair was as white as silver. Okay, so she had all white hair. It was scattered untidily over her face. Okay, she had the puckered face, the wrinkled face. Okay, and her lips constantly moved in an inaudible prayer. That means she was constantly praying. Okay, and on in one hand she had a rosary bead. She was always moving the beads of the rosary. Beads of the rosary means the beads which you use for prayer. You move the beads one by one. Usually they are 108 in number, right? So you keep on moving the beads to pray, right? Now here he calls his grandmother an expanse of pure white serenity, breathing peace and contentment. He calls his grandmother a symbol of peace and contentment. She was wearing the white dress, she was very fair, and all the hair on her head was white. So she was completely white, and white color stands for serenity, purity, right? And it was an expanse of pure white serenity. She was a symbol of peace and contentment, right? So this is what he describes about his grandmother, how she looked. Okay, she was very old, she had wrinkles all over, and she used to pray to God by moving the beads of a rosary. Okay, now grandmother and grandson, they were very good friends, because they both of them lived together in the village. Okay, his parents had gone to the city to settle down, and as they had not settled down, both the grandmother and the grandson stayed in the village. Now it was the duty of grandmother to wake him up in the morning, get him ready for the school, and give him all the necessary things needed for the school, and take him to the school. Now every morning when she used to wake him up, bathe him, get him ready, she used to sing the prayers, right? She used to sing the prayers in a very monotonous sing songs. Okay, she thought that she is teaching Khushwant Singh the prayers. She hoped it. But Khushwant Singh said that I loved to hear the song that she sang, because he liked her voice. Okay, he did not intend to learn the prayers, but he loved to listen to the song sung by his grandmother. Every morning both of them used to go to the temple, the Gurdwara, right, where the priest used to teach the students. Earlier what used to happen, the temples were a place of education. The priests were the teachers, right? There were not many schools, but the temples served as an education center. So the priests in the temples, in the gurdwaras, in the mosques, right, they served as teachers, and the children of the village used to come and study from the priests. So grandmother used to go along with Khushwant Singh. Both of them had their duties. What used to happen? The children used to line up in the corridor of the temple, and they had to memorize the lessons taught by the priest. The grandmother also used to go, and she used to sit in the Gurudwara and read the scriptures. So here it is very very clear that Khushwant Singh's grandmother could read, right? She was educated, she was literate, and she could read the scriptures, the Guru Granth Sahib written in Gurnami, the language of Punjabi language, right? So she used to read those scriptures, and Khushwant Singh used to study outside. One more thing that she did was feed Khushwant Singh the stale chapatis with butter over it. Okay, she used to butter the stale chapatis which were prepared at night earlier, and he used to eat it. And the rest of the stale chapatis, she used to take it with her and feed it to the street dogs. So this was her daily routine. She not just looked after Khushwant Singh, she was also an animal lover. She used to feed the street dogs, right? So this continued with grandmother and grandson. But after some time, when his parents were settled in the city, they called them. So grandmother and grandson reached the city. Now this was the turning point in the life of Khushwant Singh. Okay. Now both of them, when they reached the city, the life was totally different from what they had in the village. Okay. Now here we'll take a break, because this is the first part. We'll be taking up the second part, where we'll discuss what happened in the city life, which was a turning point in the life of Khushwant Singh and grandmother. Thank you.